Right, let's begin with our developing story this afternoon, where the Salaries and Remuneration Chairperson, Sarah Serem, has stuck to her guns on the salaries of members of Parliament. Serem will not review the MP salaries upwards until there is sign of major economic growth. Now, she added that the recommended salaries for parliamentarians are in direct relation to that of the President, which is currently 1.3 million shillings, and that the Commission arrived at the state officers' salaries using a scientific method and not simply mathematics as purported by some members of Parliament.
You cannot stop anybody from making any statement. I think the Constitution also allows all of us, including the public generally, the right to air their views, the right to their own opinions. That has not stopped us as SRCs as functioning, because as it is, we have a mandate to undertake, and then the mandate is extremely clear to us, and that's what we have moved on to undertake. We don't know which body would have, the mandate or the legal authority to send SRC home, but that is probably not an area of our concern. Our concern is the concern of the economy of this country. Our concern is the issue of the sustainability of the wage bill. Whether the bodies and the people that are handling it now will be here to do that, or the same people are removed, those issues will still stand out to us.
Now, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission has been categorical that a pay rise for public officers is out of the question. The push and pull between Serem's team and elected leaders has, however, turned ugly, and as is often the case, the electorate is once again collateral damage. Operations of devolved governments, for example, have stalled across the country. Reason? County assemblies have been adjourned indefinitely until their demand to have their monies increased are met. Now, members of the National Assembly have also launched their own strategy to have their pay increased. Through a petition tabled in Parliament by Igembe South Member of Parliament, that's Mithika Linturi, the MPs want the SRC chairperson, Sarah Serem, together with her entire team, dismissed from duty for abusing the Constitution by failing to seek Parliament's approval before setting the new pay. The voices supporting and opposing these actions are also growing louder. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta recently sent the most direct message to the public servants, asking them to work first before they can demand any upward adjustments to their pay. COTU Secretary Francis Atwoli has flip-flopped severally on the issue, but on Labour Day, the head of the Workers' Union said he supports having the MP's pay maintained at the previous figure of over 800,000 shillings. Now, we will know that the Serem team has since adjusted this figure to 500,000 shillings, which is what has caused all this debate. Let's shift gears now to Mathare, where panic has really gripped the residents living around the Mathare Mental Hospital, and that's after 40 mentally ill patients escaped this morning. The incident is said to have occurred after the patients overpowered the guards, claiming that the medicine they receive for their treatment is ineffective. The police have joined in search of the men, terming the escape as illegal because the hospital is the lawful custodian of the patients. Many are already participating in the hunt, considering the mental state of the patients. Police are requesting anyone with information about the said patients to get in touch with them. The 3-day grace period given by the Inspector General of Police, that's David Kimayo, to residents of Mandera County to voluntarily surrender their illegal firearms starts today. Kimayo, in a tour of Mandera County yesterday, told residents that failure to surrender their arms voluntarily would result in forceful disarmament.
As residents of Mandera County continue to pick up the pieces after the recent clash between two varying communities, the clock is ticking for those who possess illegally acquired arms. In a directive by Inspector General of Police David Kimayo, the 3-day grace period that ends on Thursday will see the deployment of the military to Mandera to forcefully disarm the residents and enforce peace.
We have actually been informed that quite a number of the communities have harmed themselves, both communities living here, with illicit small arms and light weapons, and they have some semblance of malicious group that they are protecting the two of the clans, each of the two clans, and therefore we have given an ultimatum
During his tour, the IG told residents that the recent upsurge of violence had left the government with no choice but to involve the army. Yesterday, court leaders, while touring Bungoma and Busia counties, blamed the government for laxity in ensuring Kenyans across the country were safe.
Yale ambayo yamefanyika ni ya unyama. Nilizungumza na katibu mkuu wa Umoja wa Mataifa. Akaniambia vile Wetangula ametangaza hapa ati kule katika kikao ya usalama ya Umoja wa Mataifa Security Council walisema yale yamefanyika hapa ni crimes against humanity.
Wananchi wana haki ya kutarajia usalama kutoka kwa serikali. Na pale serikali inaanza kudidimia na kushindwa, wananchi pia wana haki ya kujitetea.
Deputy President William Ruto, during a tour of Bungoma County, urged Kenyans to be patient as the government was dealing with insecurity as its top priority. For KTN, I'm Betty Kyalo.
The Parliamentary Committee on Appointments is this afternoon expected to complete its report on the Cabinet Secretary nominees. The 28-member committee retreated to the Windsor Golf and Country Club Hotel yesterday to compile its report. The committee, which is chaired by the Speaker of the National Assembly, that's Justin Muturi, concluded the 3-day vetting of the Cabinet Secretary nominees on Saturday evening. Already, some critics have dismissed the vetting process as a mere formality. The National Civil Society Congress yesterday dismissed the process, saying it failed to address pertinent concerns touching on some of the cabinet nominees. The report by the Committee on Appointments is expected to be tabled before Parliament tomorrow afternoon, where MPs will adopt or reject the nominees. Now, if adopted, President Uhuru Kenyatta will formally appoint the nominees into office, and the President is yet to name 2 nominees to the Interior and Coordination of National Government and Labour Social Security and Services dockets. Let's now have a look at the flood situation in the country. And 2 people, and that's a mother and her child, have drowned in a river in Ainamoi constituency, and that's in Kericho County. Meanwhile, heavy rains that have flooded parts of Nyanza have paralyzed school and farming activities in the area. Hundreds of families have been displaced by the floods after River Nyando burst its banks.
Heavy rains across the country continue to cause death and destruction in several regions. Learning in several schools in Nyando, among them Ahero Girls High School, has been paralyzed after flood waters submerged the school buildings. Rice fields in the area have also been submerged with flood waters. Hundreds of families have been displaced by the floods and are sheltering in camps put up by the local administration and the Kenya Red Cross Society.
Dorms are submerged in water. About 3 classes are in water, the rest are safe. The staff room are also in water. Our toilets and the water, we have a borehole that we pump. That one also is affected.
Elsewhere in Kericho, a woman and her child have drowned in a river in Ainamoi constituency. The woman is said to have gone to fetch water at River Kipsorian, which was overflowing following heavy rains in Kericho. Floods have also wreaked havoc in Eldoret. More than 100 children at AIC Kambia Samaki Children's Home in Baringo County will have to relocate to safe place after flood waters submerged the home. The institution's management is calling upon the county government to help them seek an alternative shelter for the orphans.
Kiwa hii maji itachukua hii sehemu yote, watoto hawa ambao wana ulemavu wataenda wapi?
Several parts of the country have been affected by floods in the past weeks. The government has committed to help affected families and even work on infrastructure destroyed by floods. Angel Katuse, KTN, live at 1.
13 people were this morning arraigned in a Mombasa court charged with participating in unlawful oath-taking with intention to threaten security. One of the suspects, Ali Hamisi, who's also known as Dr. Alpha, was separately charged with administering the oath, which police suspect to be the initiation into membership of the outlawed Mombasa Republican Council, or MRC. Now, the Mombasa Chief Magistrate, Steve Riechi, however, freed the suspects on a 50,000 shillings bond. The magistrate, however, refused to grant bond to the alleged administrator of the oath and ordered him to be remanded as investigations into his activities are carried out. Suspected MRC members killed 4 police officers in Changamwe area of Mombasa in early March, triggering a massive manhunt for members of the outlawed group. We intimated on this story earlier on. It's a middle-aged woman who was this morning charged in a Mombasa court with assault after allegedly burning her 10-year-old son's hands. The incident is said to have happened in Bungoni area, and that's in Nyali, Mombasa County, in December last year. The mother is alleged to have burnt her son's hands after he took some 5,000 shillings belonging to his aunt. The boy, who has now sustained permanent disability on both hands, has been forced to drop out of school since he's no longer able to write with ease. The boy was a Standard 3 pupil at the Mtopanga Primary School. He has since been rescued and is now under the care of Sauti ya Wanawake Pwani, the organization which reported the December incident to the police, leading to the arrest of the boy's mother. The suspect pleaded not guilty to the assault charges. Sauti ya Wanawake Pwani says it is looking for ways to have corrective surgery done to the boy's hands to enable him lead a normal life. I mean, it's truly unfortunate. He's just in class 3 and he already has to drop out of school. Residents of Voi district, of a district in Voi, rather, in Taita Taveta, have started to benefit from a water project which has been built on a catchment rock. The 2 areas have been faced by a lack of water for a long time, forcing women and school-going children to skip classes in search of water for home and animal use. The project, that is worth 3 million shillings, is expected to serve more than 300 families. The rock catchment project, which was funded by Wildlife Works, a company situated in the area, is expected to supply the families with water for more than 6 months during the dry season, with a capacity of 630 cubic meters. Speaking during the launch of the project, various leaders urged Wananchi to protect the project from wear and tear. The project was handed over to the residents by Red Carbon Project Vice President Rob Dawson.
Tulikuwa hata tukiamka usiku kwa sababu ya shida ya maji, tukizunguka juu chini, si Mililoni, si Maungu, si Itinyi, tukitafuta maji, na tulikuwa tunasikitika kwa muda mrefu kwa sababu mambo mengi tulikuwa tunakosa, kama watoto kukosa mashule, watoto kwa wachafu na mambo mengine madogo madogo ya kinyumbani. Lakini kwa wakati huu kutoka Carbon ije tusaidie kwa mradi wetu wa Sasenyi, tunasema ni asante na tunatoa shukrani.
Now, we started this bulletin with talk of money, the push and pull between the SRC and public servants over a pay increase. When we come back after this break, we're talking about money, but positively. Even Skidaro apparently has a way that we can increase our GDP. Stay tuned. Welcome back to business. We're talking money and positively at that. The position of Kenya as a regional hub, as a regional trading hub, is fast taking shape as investors troop to the country. Now, Philip Keitani caught up with a group from Mauritius and filed the following report.
Kenya's quest for regional business is gaining momentum with the conclusion of the general elections. Already, a delegation of investors under the banner of the Mauritius Trade and Investment are in the country seeking business.
Although Africa is now the most beautiful daughter in the world, we believe that partnership should be between Africans themselves.
The delegation says they are keen in investing in, among other areas, Kenya's sugar industry that has struggled to meet the rising demand from consumers.
We are looking not just at producing sugar. We hope that we will also be allowed to produce electricity in Kenya under power purchase agreement.
The bilateral trade between Kenya and Mauritius currently stands at 329 million rupees, but the Mauritius government is planning to multiply this by 5 times in the next 5 years.
I'm inviting the Kenyans to bring goods to Mauritius. There is a market. You have a lot of goods to sell, but I cannot sell your goods. You have to sell your own goods there.
Mauritius is also set to build a fertility hospital in Nairobi to cash in on the high number of Kenyans who have been going to Mauritius and India for the treatment.
We're still talking money matters, and although the government has greatly improved its revenue collection mechanisms and created an environment for economic growth, Kenya is still losing 20% of its gross domestic product every year because of revenue leakages brought about by wastage. Now, speaking during an Ernst & Young Financial Services conference today, Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero said the country could boost its economic growth by up to 1.2% if the government found a way to stem the 600 billion shillings leakage. This bump could boost growth from the projected 6% growth this year to about 7.2%, which would move the country closer to its economic goal of growing the country to an industrialized nation by the year 2030.
The GDP leakage through wastage, deliberate and otherwise, and for Kenyans, you know what I'm talking about, is 600 billion shillings. 600 billion, which is 20% of our gross domestic product. So just sealing that leakage, our economy will grow by a further 1.2%. So instead of the 4% differential for us to reach the double-digit growth that is required, all we'll have to do, all we'll be thinking about is 2 to 2.8% rather than 4% to get a double-digit growth.
Did you know fact of the day? I love this one because it's a really important lesson in karma. Did you know a man in South Africa rescued and adopted a baby hippo? He was then killed by the same hippo in the very river from which he had rescued it. What is nature trying to tell us? Leave the hippos alone. They're going to survive. Thank you for joining us on KTN News Desk this afternoon. It was such a pleasure. Let's see you again, same time, same place. I'm Edith Kimani. Good afternoon.